There we go. We'll start again. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty, yeah, I'm pretty good. Yourself? Happy Easter, by the way.
Happy Easter.
Yeah, I saw. I'm sorry to, I guess to interrupt your future Easter festivities with the family and everything,
That's
but
okay.
I have been wanting to do this for a while. Um, for those who don't know, once again, this is Chris Black, and this is Eclipse Spotlight, and this is podcast. And I am a former editor and reporter for Orange in New Jersey, and I'm still a publisher now. But one of the stories that I did was about a guy called Robert Peace. Robert Peace, and I'm pretty sure you know who Robert Peace is, right?
Yes.
And it was at the time Councilwoman Donna Williams and um, and the president of the T. Colson Woody Foundation. They brought Jeff Hobbs to Orange to do a book signing because he wrote a book about Robert Peace. Uh,
Right.
and so I'll stop right there and I'll let you introduce yourself and you can tell me who Robert Peace is and why I'm talking to you today.
Well, I'm Syreeta, Syreeta Lemieux. I am one of the many, many cousins of Robert Peace. Um, we know him as Sean. We call him by his middle name, which is Deshaun, but he's known as Sean to us. Um, Jeff was Sean's college roommate, and also the author of the book, The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace, which ultimately became a movie, Rob Peace, that came out last year. Um, so he was my little cousin. We're 3 years apart. Um, all of the cousins, not just Sean and myself, but all of the cousins, we were all very close. I would say we were all about as close growing up as siblings would be, not necessarily cousins. So,
Okay. And would you elaborate a little bit more? I mean, I don't want to say why did he write a book about him, but why was Rob special?
ooh, there's so many ways to actually answer that. He was extremely intelligent. He was he was smart in science. He was smart in math. As I said before, he was younger than me. He's my little cousin. We're 3 years apart, but he used to help me with my homework that I would struggle with, and he's younger than me. Um, not only was he smart, he was he was loved by a lot of different people. He was the type of person that it didn't matter your age, it didn't matter your gender, your sexual orientation, your status, how smart you were, what you did. Like he respected every human being. It didn't matter. You're black, you're white, you're old, you're young, you're male, you're female. So he touched a lot of people in his life when he was here, the short amount of time that he was here on this earth. Everyone loved him, everyone adored him. Um, but I would say when he was he well, I don't know if whoever hasn't watched the movie or read the book, it doesn't end very well. Um, I guess I can say that because most people have probably seen it. He was taken from us. He was murdered, and seeing all of the nasty, ugly things that people commented in the papers at the time of his death because of how he died. Um, I believe Jeff took it upon himself because he Jeff knew Sean wasn't that type of person. He knew that he was loving, he was empathetic, he was intelligent, he spoke different languages, and everyone adored him. There was hundreds of thousands of people at his funeral. And Jeff knew this. So the fact that he saw all of the hurtful things that was written about him from his death, he took it upon himself to say, I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to show you what this man is. So that's where the book came from.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because, like I said, I became aware of this story when Donna Williams and the president of T. Colson Woody Foundation had the book signing at the Orange Public Library, and they invited me to come out and cover it for the Orange Transcript newspaper, which is part of the Worrell Media Group. And so I went, and I had no knowledge of who Robert was, the story or anything, and I was just there as a journalist and reporter covering it. And the interesting thing to me was the mood in the room, right? Because like I said, the story that you just mentioned is uplifting and inspirational, and tragic as well, you know. But a lot of, a few people in the room, was one woman in particular. She kept pressing the issue, and I'll never forget this. She wanted to press her question for Jeff was, well, you were his roommate and you knew what he was doing, and was he doing that in college? And because her whole angle seemed to be you was in on it or whatever, like, oh, he was doing something, not good in school, and you must have known, and how did you know? And you was his roommate, and this is this, and now you're writing a book, and what's going on, and why aren't you, why didn't what happened to him happen to you type deal, and that was, like you said, when people hear about it, I think that that does become a thing because people are so cynical, right?
Yeah.
And they already know we want to see I don't want to say the bad side, but the lascivious side, right? Oh, it's so I want to hear it. Oh, it's so this must have been bad. He must have been a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
And but I talked to Jeff at that book signing because I the woman because I listened to him speak. He was not speaking about Rob in that way. And I'm sitting there going, wow, he's talking like this. And I said, dude, because the woman was starting to get on my nerves, right? Because she really was trying to needle him to see what he was going to crack. What was you in the room? How was you in the room? You was getting out with him, right? And I'm going, dude, he's your friend, right? He's your friend, and that's it. Friends of judgment, we do, And
Mhm.
but he came up as a cool dude. And listen, I did not know anything about this movie. I didn't know anything about it at all. So this was like new to me. But like I said, I've still wanted to do Rob's story because it seemed ironic to me, right? Because that book sign, I believe, was in 2014, I believe. And then a
Yeah.
few years later, in 2018, the state of New Jersey was considering legalizing cannabis, legalizing marijuana, right? And you're going, I started thinking, what this super bright, individual, talented individual was doing something, lost his life doing something that was then illegal, but now it's going to be legal. And I'm sitting there going, that's just crazy, right? That something
Yeah.
that got it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was listening. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, no, it's all right. But it was just crazy because I'm saying if it was legal now, then he'd still be here, and there wouldn't have been any problems, you know. And I thought that was ironic. And then 3 years later, 2021, the state of New Jersey legalizes cannabis, and now it's legal, right? And so it's just
Yep.
ironic to me because I'm a former drug counselor too, and so to me, on a scale of 1 to 10, weed is a zero in terms of addiction, the addictive properties, and the harmful properties. And so here is a guy, by all accounts, good dude, which is Rob, good friend, good cousin, right?
Yeah.
Good black man, right? And for something that's legal now, I mean, do you ever think about that, the irony of it or the tragedy of it? I think.
All the time. I think about it a lot, honestly, because so also Sean was so smart. He was smart to the point where he got a full ride to Yale. And he majored in molecular biophysics. It's way over my head. Like
Mhm.
very,
I just
very
call them rocket scientists.
yes, yes, very intense.
Mhm.
So that was him. And one thing, unfortunately, that we both shared as cousins that we kind of we leaned on each other's shoulders at a few times in our lives before he was taken. At the same time, his dad, Ski, was battling cancer. So was my mom, his aunt, which is my aunt Jackie's sister. And we discussed it so many times over the years that how he was going to think of something and is in a sense of like not necessarily just curing cancer, but helping to aid people that were battling cancer, like to help them in their last days. Because at the same time, we were both watching our parents in a lot of pain, and that was actually very hard for him. And that was one of his main goals, that he was going to find a cure for cancer. He was going to help ease the pain for cancer patients, whether it's through cannabis or any other type of way. So the fact that now it's legalized and he already had that in his mindset that's where he was going to take it. The way I see it, the possibilities are endless if he would still be here today. Like
Yeah,
his name would be big regardless. If he was taken from us and then people know him throughout the movie and the book, and if he were still alive, it would be even bigger. That's
yeah.
how I see it.
right? I agree with that. Like I said, it's just, and it's ironic. It's ironic how things catch up. You know, society and the law, legal things catch up to where most people already are. And then the other irony to me, which is why Donna Williams connected me with your uncle Dante, because I told her, I said, listen, I want to do something more about, you know, Robert Peace and, you know, and you know, his story. Is there any family members who would say? And she's like, oh, and she gave me Dante. She said, oh, call Dante. All right. So
Yeah.
I got Dante, and Dante connected me with you, which is good stuff, right? And but I do think about that, especially when I think about, you know, like I said, his story is so powerful, right? And then I'm glad that, you know, I didn't watch the movie, but I saw the clips in the trailer. And you know, the backstory, you know, of his dad and then the cancer in the family and his motivations behind it. Because like I said, just off the surface when people hear, oh, Yale guy gets killed in drug days, this, oh, he must have just been in it for the money.
Yeah.
And you know, as opposed to being some other reason behind it, or some reason where you needed that money for a different reason where you couldn't get it through any other kind of means, you know?
Yeah.
Because then the other thing that people say, oh, he's from Yale, he's a molecular biologist, he should have had a good job. Why he could have paid for out his money? What did he need the money for? Right?
I
But
mean, it would there were a lot of things that played in. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm
mhm.
sorry. There were a lot of things that played into that. The fact that yes, he was highly intelligent and he went to jail and he graduated from there, but he was also a young black man with locks, and you know he was tall in stature. So it's like I personally work in corporate America, and I have seen how it's changed over the years. And back then,
Yep,
we weren't always accepted to be our genuine selves.
yep,
And I always loved the fact that he was true to himself and wasn't going to change. He wasn't going to cut his hair. I mean, he wasn't like not professional, but he was himself. But that wasn't always accepted in those areas where he would apply for, you know, that type of work in pharmaceutical companies and things like that.
no, no, I agree in that because you know because we talk about image and branding. Oh, that's not the image that we want of our company. That's this. And the irony is, like you said about the locks and the dreads. Up until recently, right? Only to me, only recently has dreads become like a, you know, I don't want to say outlaw, you know, hood street type thing. But in the begin, but when I came across dreads, that was what the upwardly mobile, you know, intelligent, college educated, successful black men did. They all of them, you know,
Yeah.
Harlem, Brooklyn, they wore dreads, right? And it, like I said, it's not. It was. I always looked at it as maybe a little rebellious, but not really rebellious. It's just being who you are, you know. And it's not threatening. It's just this is a style, it's a fashion. I'm still a human being, and so
Right.
I can get that. And you're 100% right that people underestimate that. That like that as smart as he was, as accomplished as he was, as talented as he was, there were still these artificial barriers or these perceptions and things that were hindering that. Despite all that, especially when we hear now, people talk about meritocracy. Oh, it's going to be a meritocracy. How much more meritorious you got to get than being a poor kid getting a scholarship to go to Yale, right? And pulling, you know, literally pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And yet still there's things you got to, you know, go through even further, which is also another reason why I think his story is profound. Because a lot of times people go, oh, I can't, I can't. And people go, why shouldn't you? Yeah. But there are reasons, and there's legit reasons too, you know,
Absolutely.
there are legit reasons too. And so that's yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Then I also want to talk about the angle, and I was talking to Dante about this because, like I said, it is ironic to me in many, many ways. And like I said, I met Jeff Hobbs. I was there at this venue. He comes off as a straight, you know, not straight, but as a dude who's interested in his, you know, something besides money and whatever. But then you look and you see these shows on Stars, Power, and then the story about his son Ghost, and it's almost like Rob's story, right? Or you see the movie The Gentleman from Guy Ritchie over there, and it's basically about a you know a white kid. He's a Rhodes Scholar, you know, trailer park goes over to gets a scholarship to Oxford, goes to Oxford, becomes the king of weed over in Oxford, you know, because he's went to Oxford and is selling, you know, weed to all his blue blood clients and, you know, who want to get high. And that's the other thing that interested me about this, that, like I said, not the lasciviousness, but the fact that the story seems to not resonate, but it seems to percolate among guys. And like I said, this was Rob's real life, but then you got a allegedly fictitious story like, you know, Ghosted on the Stars Network. And it's about a kid, you know, who comes from where, you know, comes from a background. He's at this good school, going to this good school, and he's doing these things. And like I said, that and his lifestyle doing that. But he was deaf. This kid is a bad dude. I don't like him personally. The character, he's a bad guy. Whereas like Rob seemed like a good dude. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, and I've seen that as different things because you always wonder, oh, these good schools, what are these kids learning? Because then you get some kids who go to quote unquote good schools and they're not good people, you know?
That's very true.
So it's like, what are these schools teaching them? Especially when we talk about meritocracy.
I think one of the things that the book and the movie is like so like I love that it portrays is you really can't judge a book by its cover. Um, because you could look at Rob and say on one hand, oh, he's this young black man and he's selling weed and oh, he's a thug, oh, he's this or that. Or you could also say, oh, well, he's so privileged and he went to Yale and he has all these opportunities and this and that he could go far. Why is he doing this with his life? You never really know what someone's going through. You never really know what someone is battling, because we hide it so well because there's so many stigmas and like we're judged like everyone in life. Like you're not always open to let your guard down and let people know what you're going through. Like there was a scene in the movie with on Rob Peace where he was working in the lab at Yale, and there were two professors that came in and Rob had a do-rag and he was working and they just automatically assumed he shouldn't be there. That's like, again, like judging a book by its cover. You really have no clue. He was smarter than both of the gentlemen that walked in that room. So you never know what someone's battling. You never know what they're going through. You never know how hard it was for them to get to where they are. So I like the fact that it's opening people's eyes to, okay, maybe he wasn't what I thought he was.
Mm-hmm.
I should think twice before I judge someone type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Listen, I agree with that 100%, right? Don't judge a book by its cover, especially when we're talking about a book, right? But but the other thing, one of the things that I'm gonna say I did not like, but when I see it, they keep saying Newark or near Newark. Nobody wants to say Orange, New Jersey.
Yes. The
right?
family, we all said that, but then we realized some things are for entertainment purposes or whatever. But yes, factually speaking, we're from Orange.
Yeah, right. And then what's wrong with that, right? Big up Orange, So
Orange, New Jersey. I think it's because Newark is more popular with everyone that's not from Jersey or Essex County, and like that. I don't know. That's my guess.
yeah, this is the name, right? But they don't know about Orange Pride, man, and that's what it's all about, right? That's when you from Orange, you got Orange Pride, and it seems to me, like I said, the more I hear about, speaking of Dante, and I expect to some other people in Orange who they say they knew Rob, but you're not sure, But yeah, he had Orange Pride, and that was a good
Yeah.
thing, And then we also talk about sometimes some people who get held up as images and things for us within the Black community that maybe sometimes they shouldn't be, right? And it would have been cool. It would have been cool for a guy, even before, for Rob, and he should have, if you ask me, to come back to the schools and talk to the kids in Orange, right? That would have been great. He should have been like a featured speaker at all the events. They should have been bringing him back around a lot and more often,
Yeah.
something like he wants. So I think that's a missed opportunity. And that's what I think of too, like missed opportunities. I mean, because there, people who brought Frank Lucas to Orange to talk about, being a successful drug dealer. I'm going, what? It's not that it's bad. He did something that what's the name, but it's also dubious. Whereas Rob, like I said, I gonna say we never hurt nobody because it hurt him. But I mean, once again, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is 0. Which is why it's illegal now. And maybe some people, a lot of quarters would argue this never should have been illegal in the first place. And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Why this case is interesting to me, that yeah, it's just the unfortunate timing of activism and when it does come about and when society catches up to where everybody else is at.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you and Dante and the rest of the family want people to know about Rob? You read the book, you see the movie, but what do you want them to know?
Ooh, what I want them. Well, I will say, I speak for a lot of other family members, not just myself, when I say we're very grateful for the book and the movie because it gives people an insight as to who he was as a person, even if it's just a glimpse. Because initially, before, there were really horrible things written about him, and we kind of we tried protecting his mom from reading certain things. So it did change the narrative, and we're grateful for that because a lot of families don't get that opportunity. And also to speak on behalf of him as well. This doesn't always happen for a lot of families. Um, we would like for people to know, because it wasn't necessarily portrayed in the book or the movie. I guess to for time restraints and budget costs or whatever. But he was a family man. He wasn't married. He didn't have kids, but he was very much a family man. Like every one of the cousins that have kids, including myself, I have three, and he had a relationship with everyone, a relationship with every cousin's child, um, every cousin that branched off and had their own family. He loved and supported his mother, our grandparents. He was always there for them when they were sick. Respected everyone in the family. He was very well loved. It wasn't portrayed in the movie as much as we wanted it to be, but there's a lot of us. There's a whole bunch of cousins. And he was close to everyone. There was a time when he was working at Newark Airport with my brother. So he was able to travel for free. So it didn't matter which cousin lived in Florida, Ohio, Atlanta. We had cousins living in Japan at the time because of the military. He made it his business to make his way around the world and have a relationship with every single person in the family. So he's very missed.
Yeah.
He's very missed. All my kids remember him. He's very loved. He's not whatever monster he was portrayed to be out to be initially when he was murdered. So
Yeah, yeah,
he's
no, no. I'm glad you shared that too, because the human side of it, and we live in a post HBO TV show Wire world, right? So people understand, have a better understanding of the factors and the forces, behind why things happen. So that's a good thing. But by the same time, like you said, when they hear, oh, smart guy, he's super intelligent guy, everything they think evil genius. There must have been genius, right? Oh, he was using all that brain power for bad stuff. And but it's not what it is, right? It's real world, real people, right? And that is cool because that also says we talk about it, and now in the current world we got emotional intelligence. So he wasn't just book smart; he was emotional intelligent too, right? Because he knew the value of family and people. That's cool, right? Because
and
once again,
he
yeah,
was very very worldly. I'll say with all the traveling, he believe it or not blended in everywhere. It didn't matter which continent he was on, and he learned the language. He spoke Portuguese. He spoke Spanish. He knew. He went to Croatia. Like he was um he was open to all different cultures and had so many different friends and embraced everything. Like he was just like he was bigger than you could imagine. I'll say that.
nah, just off the story and hearing about him, right? And then talking to Dante, and then hearing Jeff speak, and then yeah, he had to be, and also to accomplish what he did. That's why it was great that he spent his time here. We don't know how much time we had, but he spent his time well and used his
He
talent
did.
to the fullest, which I think is another thing, right? You get all these kids, and we talk about the hood and whatever. But dude, when you have a talent and ability, it's your not just your duty, but you gotta use it to the best that you can do, which sounds like what he actually did, which is also another, example for a lot of these kids who have motivation problems, if you ask me, in terms of
Yeah.
why they need to do things. Um, but no, like I said, to me, it's a cool story. It's a sad story too, though, right? And yeah, but now you did a pretty good job. Now I see why Dante wanted me to talk to you, right? Because that's good stuff. All right, and because because like I said, Don sent me to him, and he sent me to you. And a lot of sometimes, as the interviewer, you go, he sent me out, he voiced me off. But now he sent me to the right person, right?
Oh, well, he's at church and doing like Easter stuff. And my kids are grown, so It's just me right now.
See, I just said it to somebody about Easter. I said Easter, that's for Chris, that's for families and stuff, that's for kids. That ain't, you ain't for done, right?
I have a whole bunch of them, but they're all grown. My youngest, she's out with her friends, so I'm good.
We got no Easter baskets, huh?
No, been there, done that. I mean, I have a grandson, but he's with other family, so I'm kind of off the hook this
Nice.
year. So yeah, okay.
Right? All right. And then so yeah, I don't have any too many more questions. Like I said, I wanted to talk to you, and you know, it's a well-known story, and I wanted to ask about, you know, because I tell you, I was still salty about that woman in Jeff that night. I'm going, wow, she was really trying, right? Really trying to get him to confess. Yeah, he was telling her in the Highland. You
I
know,
I will say, like, I do hear some people sometimes, give Jeff a hard time. Um, and in the beginning, when he started interviewing, when Jeff was interviewing people for the book, it was like really soon after we lost him. So I personally wasn't one of the people that he interviewed, and I was angrier back then. I was still like grieving, and I don't want to talk to anybody. My cousin just died type thing. But I've known Jeff for so many years now, and I've come to know him as a human being, and he is one of the most kindest, empathetic, sweetest people that I've really ever met. And he really wanted people just to know that Sean was never a thug. Sean was never just some drug dealer or whatever that everyone was saying in New Jersey. And he knew that there was so much more to him, and he went above and beyond. Like, he went to so many different places in Jersey, like the jail in Trenton. Like, he went places that most people wouldn't even think of going, and he did that just to prove a point and be like, this is my friend. This was my roommate for however many years at Yale. That is not the man that you're saying that he is. And some people had comments to say, oh, like a white man talking, writing this book about a black man. But truthfully, it has nothing to do with color per se, because Sean wasn't like that. He loved everyone regardless, and that's why Jeff was a friend of his. Um, and there's no ill intent from Jeff that I've noticed. I've spent quite a few years around him, and I'm very happy and grateful that he did this.
wow, that's cool. And listen, and for people who wonder about that, but the rule for writers as a writer, right, is that you write what you know. The best writing is based off what you know. Unless you're Stephen King and you got a crazy imagination, right? Most people, you write what you know. And if you live this, because he did live it, he didn't live Rob's life, but he was there for part of Rob's life, and Rob was there for part of his life. That was it. He knew them. They lived there. They roomed together. They went to class together. They ate together, right? So I mean, yes, that's stuff that he knows, and he knew Rob, right? Which is the good thing.
He did. And I will say, Chiwetel as well, the director and actor in the movie, he didn't know Sean, he never met him, but I love how he portrayed Sean in the movie. Um, both of them did a fabulous job with everything, because now the world knows Sean's name, and they fell in love with him, and they see his heart, um, and everything that we loved about him. So I'm grateful to both of them.
That's what's up. And listen, I like Chiwetel Ejiofor, right? He's in the movie with Denzel. Well, from
Yeah.
the movie.
He's really, really nice too. I spoke to him before I met him in person. We emailed, we called. I met him at the film festival in Utah. He's very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, he's good. And like I said, one of my favorite movies, Red Belt. That's what's up. And listen, nah, it's the truth. And I want to say this last thing, and I don't want to wrap it up. But I mean, in terms of the thing that lingers with me is we talk about closure, but not for you and the family, because I know that there probably never will be any. But in terms of the case, did they ever catch the guy who did it, or that is still open? Because there's no statute of limitation on homicide, man. And so to me, I think that those, whoever did this, and not just rob the family, but to me, rob the world and community of a dude like Rob, they need to, they need to watch their bag. I want to say it that way. But yeah, so you're right, because bad people need to get got, right? Need to get caught. And so, but there never was. I mean, was there ever, is there any resolution on that end?
No, it would be nice to see that. Uh, it would be a beautiful closure, honestly. There were times in the beginning where a lot of us, including myself, were really hell-bent on finding out who did it, and driven by anger, by rage, by hate, by grief. And eventually, me personally, I can't speak for everyone else, but I came to the point where I kind of had to almost make peace with it, and let it go, just so that I could kind of move on in the process of grieving, and just remember Sean how he was, and not focus on that specific moment, because it was eating up at me a lot, and it was affecting my life, and I just had to let it go.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, listen, that was a very good answer. Thank you very much for sharing that with me. But I'll say it, right? Anybody who knows anything about this, put them dudes on blast, right? Because a lot of times, in our community talk the whole snitching thing. But a East Orange councilman once told me, Janabu Williams, I think his name, and he was going, snitching is only for people who are committing the crime. It's not snitching to let people know about bad people doing bad things. If you're not out there doing the bad things with them, then you're not snitching, because that's what the definition of snitching is. You and me commit a crime, I get caught doing something else, and to save myself, I throw you under the bus, whatever. But that means I was still involved in the crime. So snitching is only for people who are involved in that bad activity, right? Who are actually, in there, and then now they got caught for doing something. They want to save themselves. That's that, but that's not snitching to get somebody who needs to get got. And to me, the guys who did that to Rob, they need to get got. That's just me, right? And so
Agreed. Agreed.
so that's just how that goes. All right, but listen, thank you for taking the time, especially on Easter,
Thank you.
to speak about this. I want to publicize this. I want to put it out there, and also, yeah, I just really wanted to get it, because like I said, the irony of something that you're down for something that's totally legal now, totally legal, right? And it's just crazy.
Yes.
It's just crazy to me. And so thank you for giving me some mental rest and closure, right? Because yeah, man, right? Yeah,
Thank
you wasn't hurting nobody.
No.
All
No.
right. So listen, anything coming up you want to let the people know about, anything, you contact Rob Peace. I know everybody knows the Netflix show now that I noticed on Netflix. Anything, fun to keep them live around, scholarship on, anything like that you guys doing?
Anything that we're doing?
What do you want to do?
Um, Nothing that I know at the moment. The most recent thing we did, the movie was nominated for an NAACP Image Award
Yeah.
back in February, I want to say. We didn't win, but we were very honored and just happy to be there. And it was a beautiful experience. My aunt loved it. She got to walk the red carpet. It was amazing. Yeah, and all this is because of Jeff and Chiwetel, everyone involved in the project. It's a blessing. So I will say that.
All right, no doubt. All right, listen, keep my information.
Okay.
I'll put you up again, right? And things come up. Are you still in Orange? You still in Jersey?
No, I'm in Florida.
Yeah, hey, that's all right. You're still repping for Orange. That's what's up.
Yes.
All right, no doubt. But listen, thank you very, very much. Tell Dante I said thank you.
Thank you. I
Um,
will. Will there be a link? Because then I'll have the family watch.
yeah, yeah. I'll put a link on everything. All right.
Okay. Thank
But thank you
you.
very, very much.
Okay. Happy Easter.
To you too. Happy Easter. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.
And nice hair.
Oh, thank you.
All right. How's my lighting? How's my lighting? How's my lighting? Well, yeah. So we just sorry had an interview with a surviving family member of Robert Peace, who was from Orange, not Newark. I know nobody else said that, but I'm going to say that. And like I said, his story, it resonated with me when I first heard it. Shout out to former City of Orange, New Jersey Councilwoman Donna K. Williams, and also to the president of the T. Colson Woody Foundation, who organized and sponsored the Jeff Hobbs book reading at the Orange Public Library in 2014, I think it was, when he came through after he wrote the book, because that's how I became aware of it. And I thought it was a great story. I still think it's a great story. And like I said, to me, I don't want to bring up any copyrights and things, but it seems like to be, one of those stories where you get a guy who's from a certain circumstance in the background, and then he's, to this, not allegedly, but the good school, the good people, the good upbringings, and these other things, and they follow him, and tragically caught up to him. But like I said, it's good to me, inspiring story. The ending is kind of tragic, but the silver lining is that it's good. People know who he is and why he did what he did and what he was trying to do or what he was doing, and then just more awareness, right, about how you got to use your time wisely and also maximize your skills and abilities. I think it's a very inspirational story for kids. If you have talent, your talent can take you places. We hear, nowadays about the meritocracy and people, but merit should be rewarded. If you have talent, it should be rewarded. It should be recognized, and it should be rewarded if it's legit. And Rob Peace's talent was legit, and it's a cool story. Like I said, I didn't know anything about the Netflix movie, but now that I do, hey, go to Netflix, watch the Rob Peace story, right? That's what's up. I like Chiwetel Ejiofor. He's a good actor. Red Belt, great movie. And the Peace family, right? Dante, Syreeta, everybody else, great family. So thank you very much for tuning in. I will maybe add some more because some more links to this when I post it, so that people can follow it. But yeah, it's a good story, and it's from Orange, New Jersey, the city of Orange Township in New Jersey. And Newark is cool, but the city of Orange Township is cool too. All right, thank you very, 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 very much, and take it easy.